I was executive director of the Real Estate Foundation for 20 years and retired to become director of special programs on a 2-year contract. So that's what I'm doing now. It gives me a little bit of time to work on research. This project turned out to be a monster. So I'm finding it was really hard to compress down to some things that might be most useful to you. So we'll see how that goes. Just observing about some of the priorities the Real Estate Foundation has. One of our goals is to support practitioners to build their talent, so to speak, so they can become more knowledgeable and more expert at whatever their roles are, whether they're professionals or if their employment relates to the land, if they're volunteers in a land-related enterprise like a conservancy or a trust, whatever. We do a lot of funding to help those practitioners become more capable to build their capacity. In this valley, we have a long-term strategy in that respect with the stewardship and conservation sector. So over 10 years, we've made a number of grants to large Piercing Watershed Society, Comox Valley Land Trust, the Comox Valley Watershed Society, and another one I can't think of, Jack probably knows, Project Watershed Land. And it was gratifying to see the report Nature Without Borders be produced, and that report has the kind of expertise in it that you would expect to come from practitioners who know their stuff. And that's now a document that's being used in the regional processes in the valley, and I think in the regional team of those. So for the foundation, it's been really gratifying to see a long-term strategy like that go on. And I think one reason it was very important to us to do that is there's a very simple maxim: what gets measured gets managed. If you can't count it, if you don't know what it is, it's not in your equation. And for a long time, nature's been a discount, especially in the development world. It's an externality, not to be worried about. Some future inflation or some future generation will count. Well, it's not the way it works. So what I'm going to do today is talk about this subject. Vivian's assisted me extensively on a series of cases we looked at. We produced a matrix to examine those cases. So these are specific large-scale development projects, and that'll be the second part of what I present. First, I'd like to give you sort of the larger context review about this dynamic and some of the conclusions we came to from looking at it. What do I know about this subject? I'm a sociologist by training, and subsequently took studies in real estate law and real estate finance, urban design, and sustainable community economic development. Usually I find out that there's a lot more I wish I knew than what I have in my hands, so working on this thing was a real eye-opener about how difficult the topic is. And this could be the first phase of a larger project. Vivian assisted on this. Also, Laura Taters with the Ministry of Rural and Community Development looked at the methodology, made some suggestions, and maybe sometime there'll be more funding available to complete this at a later stage. So it's my responsibility, the findings I'm presenting. If you don't like them, challenge me. I'm open to questions anytime during this presentation, so don't feel shy. So the question, what drives settlement change on the east coast of Vancouver Island, sprang from concerns that local government practitioners, consultants, community organizations, and others have expressed to CAVI since CAVI began in 2006. And communities basically want to have a fuller understanding of the dynamic that drives use and demand for land in their communities, and deal with some of the effects of that process, such as attainable housing, what happens with the import, if you like, the importing of inflation through this process. We wanted to look at the large-scale developments because there are so many of them on Vancouver Island, including the Mid-Island region. And if you will go on the provincial government major projects website, you'll find about 80 projects listed. We're only dealing with projects with a residential component. None of the industrial projects are included in this, nor projects that are strictly commercial. In the Mid-Island region, there's about 38 projects that fit this definition, which means $15 million or more of intended capital expenditure for the project. That's how Stats BC defines it. So I redefine the question more to what drives large real estate development in the Mid-Island region, because I think it is one market, and I'll explain why I think that is. We're talking about the area from Mill Bay to Campbell River. We looked at this previous slide. So that's what we're calling the Mid-Island. Okay, also today we'll spend a lot of time on the Comox Valley Regional District area and looking at projects here, but we have looked at some in other areas. Of course, we haven't reviewed all the major projects, there just isn't time. And we know that a number of them will never become reality. Some are realistic, some aren't, but some are in process, some are approaching development application status, some are underway and are now suspended for a while because of the nature of the market at the moment. These are all projects which require significant cash flow to work. Few developers have deep enough pockets, let's say around a $1 billion development, and carry all of the front end load of that without getting some kind of revenue stream coming in. By phasing it and developing the charity aspects of the project first and the more difficult aspects later, that typically would be what happens. Okay, so some conclusions first. There's one market for large-scale real estate development projects in the Mid-Island region. And why do I think that's the case, or why does this research point in that